All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. We have exactly enough for a quorum, but hopefully some more will be coming in. We've got a pretty full agenda, so and many of us have 12 o'clock meetings. I'm going to go as long as I can on chair. I might have to switch over to my vice chair to finish up the meetings, but we want to welcome everyone for meeting number 4 for Veterans Military Affairs, and we've had a lot of bills come through our committee this year, and I do want to let everyone know while they're here, we will be having a special called meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Do you remember what room that was? This one. Okay, same place, different time. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we will be having a special called meeting. We're going to try to get through some Senate bills tomorrow. All right, so at this time, I'll have Madam Secretary please call roll. And if you're out there in cyber world or from your office, let us know if you're in your district or if you're actually in your office.
Representative Blanton. Representative Dossett. Representative Duplessis. Representative Freeland.
Here.
Representative Fugit.
Here.
Representative Gentry.
Here.
Representative Goforth. Representative Gooch. Representative Hart.
Here in the room.
Representative Cook. Representative Lewis.
Here.
Representative Maddox. Representative McCool.
Here.
Representative Mentor. Representative Sharp.
Here in the room.
Representative Stevenson. Representative Tackett Lafferty. Representative Wesley.
Here.
Representative Wheatley.
Here.
And Chairman Thomas.
Here. All right, it sounds like we do definitely have a quorum now and duly constituted to do business of the state. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to ask Representative Baker to come up and stand at the middle because we're going to all stand real quick, do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then if you want to remain standing, he's going to lead us in prayer. And Representative Baker, if you want to just have that middle seat, we'll just consider Danny and Ed your bodyguards. All right, we do have a very honorable, distinguished veteran today, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Representative Baker to just introduce him and part of his family. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us in person. He had every intention to be, but last minute things happened. So we'll turn the floor over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today, and I appreciate you giving us this opportunity to honor Mr. Dan Hale. Mr. Hale, as many of you know, if you've read his bio that is included in your folder, he will celebrate his 101st birthday later in the month of March, on March 23rd. I think he celebrated his 78th wedding anniversary last week. He served in World War II, came in the second wave at Normandy, fought in the Battle of the Bulge, has many interesting stories, a spectacular man, and I'm greatly honored that you allowed him to come today and that you're recognizing him. He is visiting with us remotely due to some health issues this morning. I think he's having some trouble with his video, but we do have him by audio. So, Mr. Hale, I don't want to take up any of your time. Sir, if you'd like to please share with us some comments that you have.
Hey, Pat. Right now they're asking if you would like to share something with them.
Share something.
Uh-huh.
Well, Is that them?
Yes, that's them right there in the corner.
You?
Good morning, Mr. Hale. Could you tell us a little bit about your service?
Tell them about your service, Dad.
Tell them about your service. Tell them what war and things that you fought in.
I was in World War II. Fought under General Patton's army. I was in the 5th Division and 3rd Army. General Patton's army. I got my eardrum busted in Frankfurt, Germany. Didn't do nothing about it. I just went along to fighting. They asked me why I didn't turn in to veterans. I said, well, I still won't shoot a gun. And I just kept going. I wouldn't give up. But that's what's catching up with me today. I forgot more than most people ever know. I about forgot what I know myself.
Tell them what battles you were in, Dad.
Tell them what battles that you were in.
Well, I was in the Battle of Hedgerows in Normandy, France. That's where I landed in Normandy, France. Fought the Hedgerows, pillbox in Normandy, France, and the pillbox at Hedgerows in Germany. They pulled us out of Germany and sent me to the Battle of Budge to stop them up by the Battle of Budge. So I went and fought the Battle of Budge. I laid in that snow out in them fields like cattle. My feet frostbit, my arms cold, but I'm still going. I'm 101 year old, but I'm still making it. You can't keep a good man down, there's a squirrel up a tree.
That's right.
Because a good man will get up, the squirrel will come down.
Tell them about your steer driving.
Yeah, I was in all of them. I've seen about 5, 6, 7 different countries over in the most of them.
Well, thank you for those comments, sir. It's definitely an honor to have you out there, and we wish we could have met you in person, but this is the next best thing. And I believe Representative Massey, you've been working on a bill with our vets later on. I don't know where that's coming for the state of Kentucky, but we're going to keep hoping that gets through one day, and we can honor gentlemen like Dan here. Do you have anything else to add? How can you not? Or is there any comments that anyone wants to make towards Mr. Hale? I'm sure there's probably plenty, but... Well, sir, Representative Baker has some items for you, and he will be able to get those to you. One of them is a challenge coin, and I believe he has a citation honoring your service and everything. But we really thank you for being here today, and we hope you get to feeling a little bit better, and you can get out and keep that walking and jogging that you've been doing daily. So we appreciate you being here, sir.
Say thank you.
Tell
Tell them thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hale.
Can you hear me?
We could hear you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative, for bringing him to us, and what an honor. Anytime we have World War II vets, it is a distinct honor. And between the Battle of Normandy and the Battle of the Bulge and the hedgerows, can you imagine hiding behind piles of hay? That wouldn't be the protection I'd want. But these are men and women that are enabling us to be here. So thank you for bringing him.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Let him know he had a standing ovation.
I sure will. Thank you all very much.
All right, we will go ahead and move on to our agenda. We have House Bill 251, and our presenters are at the table as we speak. So please introduce yourself, even though we all know you. And if you have any speakers out there, please have them introduce themselves.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I'm Ed Massey, representative from the 66th District in Boone County, and I'm honored to be here and be on this bill as a sponsor, but I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Representative Bentley, for the introduction. It's a very special guest here today, and I'm going to let him and work on the bill, and then we'll do it together. So, Representative Bentley.
I'm Representative Danny R. Bentley, District 98, all Greenup and part of Boyd. Testifying today, we have a special person, Erin Ramey. She's a charter member of the Military Spouse ID Network. She is a Marine Corps spouse and had passed the Kentucky Bar as an attorney in the state of Kentucky in 2008.
I have a motion and a second.
We do need to finish the introduction because he didn't get to tell this committee that this young lady is his daughter.
Well, let's please proceed there. So, do you want to go ahead and proceed? In a few minutes there.
So I have worked diligently with Representative Bentley and with his daughter, Erin. She has been a delight to work with. She is very passionate about not only the bill here, but the work she's been doing with the Kentucky Bar Association and some other groups. And to really just explain it quickly, and I appreciate the motion, but if somebody's deployed and their spouse has to go with them, if they want to stay with their spouse, sometimes somebody that's licensed in a state, they may have to come here. The person is deployed to Kentucky, to Fort Knox or Fort Campbell, and the spouse has to come here. This bill basically would waive some of those cost and administrative fees, occupational fees that go with their professional licensure because they didn't necessarily choose that move. It was chosen for them by the government, and so they're just following their spouse. So in the interest of protecting families and protecting the occupation and the hard work of the men and women that serve our country, that was the purpose of the bill. But I would like to give it over to Dr. Bentley because he is so proud of this young lady. I know that it was going to be emotional for him, but she is the proverbial chip off the old block. So.
Yeah. Well, everybody knows what the Blue Star family surveys are in this room, I'm sure. And of course, they say that the resilience and being strong for the active duty service members to be ready to fight among and around the globe depends upon this relationship, even with their spouse. So, it's a teamwork thing. And so this bill will support these professional spouses, and it'll make our country stronger. And not only that, if they come to Kentucky, we hope they stay here as professional spouses. We want to be the most friendly military state in the Union, and this is a first on this. So I would like to Erin to make a couple of comments. Erin Ramey, her husband is a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, and you only got 2 minutes, sis, so it's your turn.
Thank you all for having me. My husband, Drew Ramey, and I are both from Greenup County, Kentucky, so I wanted to add that in there. For me, my journey begins in Kentucky, passing the Kentucky Bar, and then we've been around the globe. Actually, we're packing up today to go back to Japan for the third time. Spouses are a very transient community, and we also deal with unemployment, underemployment, licensing issues. We have seen a great movement with licensing reciprocity, but just part of the spouse story is, even as an attorney, like most attorneys have 2 to 3 different states that they are keeping their license up and maintaining as they travel. So one thing that we can do to help alleviate some of these burdens and challenges that military families face, because it's just not the spouse, whatever affects the spouse also affects the active duty service member. One small thing we can do is to actually waive these professional dues. A lot of times the laws in each state waive the dues for the active duty service member, but doesn't do it for the military spouse. So this is just one way to help military families serve and keep the mission at hand on mind, and to make it easier for them to PCS constantly. Spouses move every 2 to 3 years. And this is just one to help the family do that, and also to economically bring those spouses in active duty back to Kentucky as a military family state. And Kentucky is the first today to have this type of House bill hoping it goes to the floor. But we are one of the first. Kentucky's my home state, and I hope this movement actually continues to other states to help military families, because military spouses and active duty are one unit moving constantly. So what you're doing today is actually helping the whole family serve and continue to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony, and thank you for your service. My son-in-law and my daughter just joined the Army, so she's moved 5 times in 4 years. So we appreciate that, and many of everyone in here has experienced some of those. I'm sure Representative Stevenson's moved a time or 2. So, all righty, we do have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments or anything? We got one last minute one there. Go ahead.
Last minute.
Yes,
Aaron,
ma'am.
thank you. It is the family that serves. I couldn't do what I did without my husband. And the more we can beat that drum, that it takes the whole family because of the sacrifices. When I was at work, my husband was getting the electricity turned on.
Exactly.
So on behalf of the people who serve in the uniform, to the families, thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
All right. I think she conveys the feelings of all of us there. But if there's no other questions, Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Representative Blanton.
Aye.
Representative Dossett.
Explain my vote.
You go ahead.
Representative Bentley, I apologize for pulling the trigger so quick on that right there. And you've got a fine young lady right there.
Thank you.
So, and it's an honor to vote yes.
Only thing she did wrong, she went to U of L law school to the UK. But she has 2 degrees from UK too.
Representative Duplessis. Representative Freeland. Representative Fugit.
Yes.
Representative Gentry.
Yes.
Representative Goforth.
Yes.
Representative Gooch.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Semper Fi, ma'am. Yes.
Representative Lewis.
Yes.
Representative Maddox. Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Mentor.
Briefly explain my yes vote. It's an honor to vote yes. Aaron, I'm so glad to meet you. I love working with your father so much, and I'm happy to cast a vote to support military families and spouses, because anything we can do to make this more family friendly, I'm here for that work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Sharp.
Most definitely yes.
Representative Stevenson.
Most definitely yes.
Representative Tackett Lafferty.
Yes.
Representative Wesley.
You have some Marines in the house. I have to say hoorah and yes. Thank you.
Representative Wheatley.
Yes.
And Chairman Thomas.
Hi. Well, it looked like it passed pretty unanimous. Kind of thought that one would. I'd recommend that y'all push leadership to try to get this heard on the floor. So, and I will lobby for it too. So, thank y'all for being here, gentlemen and ma'am. We appreciate you being out there, and I can see if we'll see if Danny can present it on the floor with that much emotion too. So, all right, thank you, gentlemen and ladies. We are going to jump out of schedule just a little bit to honor the senator's time. He has a 12 o'clock along with many of us. So I'm going to go ahead and call SB 80. Senator Carroll, we all know you, but let's see, there's no committee sub or anything. If you want to introduce yourself, introduce your guest, and then the floor is yours.
Let's get John up here first. I want you guys to come up together. Okay, please. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Danny Carroll, the state senator from the 2nd District.
And I'm Representative John Blanton from the 92nd District.
And I'm J.D. Cheney, Executive Director, CEO with the Kentucky League of Cities.
And, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have some members of law enforcement to come up as a separate group to speak. And I'm going to dispense with my opening statements to this bill because I know we're in a bind for time. But basically, I just want to stress that this bill builds on a piece of legislation that my colleague to the right, Representative Blanton, passed, I think, 2 years ago, and related to police decertification. And I also want to stress that it is law enforcement that is behind this bill. We hear a lot of comments recently about police reform, and I think it's crucial for everyone to know that law enforcement is always in a state of reform, keeping up with case law, keeping up with the statutes that we change, that we generate, and keeping up with societal expectations. And I'm honored to have these gentlemen here with me today as we present this bill. To begin with, this bill, in that the way that it builds on the previous legislation, in the Section 1, it defines what an investigative agency is, and it could be the employing agency or it could be another agency conducting an investigation. In this section, it also amends the definition of professional malfeasance and professional nonfeasance to add specific actions that fall under these two categories, and you all can read those for yourself. And it states that certification shall be automatically revoked for pleas of guilty, conviction, or Alford plea to any state or federal felony, any criminal offense in another state that would be a felony, or willful falsification of information to obtain or maintain certification. Also in this section, it establishes an appeals process for the decertification process that's in place where an officer may appeal at any time with the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council. And the council may also impose reasonable conditions upon recertification warranted under the facts, and they may subpoena records necessary to establish cause for reinstatement has in fact been remedied. And they may overturn a decision leading to decertification by an appellate court, or any type of invalidation of a conviction shall remedy decertification. So if the cause of the decertification is remedied by the court system, KLEC has the option to lift that decertification. And expungement shall not be considered in lifting the decertification. And any final decision can be appealed to the circuit court under KRS 13B 140. And then the next part of the bill deals with certification that may be revoked, and this is a decision that's made by the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council. A plea of guilty, an Alford plea, or conviction for a misdemeanor involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, misrepresentation, physical violence, sexual abuse, crimes against a minor or household member, or general discharge of less than honorable conditions that result in termination from the officer's agencies. And the bill also strengthens provisions that an officer cannot avoid decertification simply by resigning or retiring from the agency before the investigation is complete. And if the facts of the case had been substantiated prior to the officer leaving would have led to termination, the case goes to KLEC. And this is a problem that we have had across this state and across this country for many, many years. Investigation starts on an officer, and to avoid any sanctions, they just resign, and then you find out a week later that they're in another agency, either in this state or another state. And so we are setting a standard that this will no longer happen. Section 2 of the bill is basically conforming language. Section 3 establishes provisions of conditional offers of employment, in that the offer can be made while the agency is awaiting records from other agencies before making that decision. And it also requires that the council and an agency has 14 days following the receipt of a request to provide information. However, that conditional offer stands until that information is received. So if it goes beyond the 14-day period, the person cannot start work, the recruits cannot start work until that information is received, and they cannot accept an offer of employment until that point. It also requires that the applicant sign a waiver and release of liability if a conditional offer is made. and it authorizes the hiring agency to request information from all prior agencies, including out-of-state agencies. The bill establishes immunity from civil liability for disclosing information and for the consequences of the disclosure of information unless this information disclosed was knowingly false or deliberately misleading, was rendered with malicious purpose, or was a violation of the civil rights of the former employee. And then finally, the bill codifies language to allow the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council to share information that they have in their possession related to decertification to out-of-state agencies. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague for comments.
Thank you, Senator, and I'll be very brief. I think he summed it up very well. What I want you all to know is there's three of us sitting here in the room today in law enforcement. We do not want bad actors in our profession. Just like any other profession, a few bad apples spoils the whole barrel. So we're looking at ways that we can make it easier to get rid of these bad actors, including for those being dishonest. There's no place for them in this profession because you're put on a witness stand to swear to tell the truth, and you ought to be able to do that. So this is us coming forward saying we are constantly evolving. We're constantly looking ways to make our agencies and our profession better, and this is one of those tools to make our agency better, get rid of those bad actors so that we have people that the community can have trust in that are out there doing their jobs. Thank you.
Motion on the bill.
Do we have a second? Did you catch who had the second? Okay. Alrighty, I believe we do have some questions. We will start out with Representative Wheatley. Representative Gentry, was that a thumbs up? You had a question, or were you making a motion?
Yeah, but he might ask it, so.
We'll wait. We'll come to you afterwards in case.
Well, first of all, thank you, Senator Carroll and Representative Blanton. And I just think that this is a great bill. I do have a question related to the comments that were made about out-of-state requests for information, and that made me think about the bill we recently passed in the House that disallowed out-of-state actors from getting open records requests. So just want to make sure that we're not creating any problems there. There's still, this is law. If we pass it and it gets signed, it will be almost an exception, I guess, to the open records request law, or not. Just if you can explain that tension there.
Representative Wheatley, this would not conflict with House Bill 312 provisions, which amends Chapter 61 Open Records. This would be a new section in Chapter 15, so these response requests would be governed separately other than the open records, so it would create a different statutory right. So there's no conflict between the two bills.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to ask any questions?
Mr. Chairman, could we recognize our members of law enforcement that are here prior to voting?
Please do. If you would, just introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Colonel Pat Morgan with the Kenton County Sheriff's Office. I've been with the Sheriff's Office through 39 years. I'm here on behalf of the Kentucky Sheriff's Association for Jerry Wagner, who could not make it today. The Kentucky Sheriff's Association had a board meeting yesterday, wholeheartedly support this bill, spoke on this bill in length. We have a couple sheriffs who sit on the KLEC board. One of them is on the POPS committee. And this movement is taking place at the POPS committee, are seeing a lot more officers come forward that our agencies are bringing forward for decertification. Where the sheriff spoke yesterday, one of the sheriffs spoke in the meeting, said they used to see maybe 1 to 5 a year. They're seeing 10 to 12 in a quarter now. So this bill is moving forward. This is helping the cause to get rid of some of the bad actors that we have. Thank you.
I'm Captain Brian Butler with the Kenton County Sheriff's Office. I've been there 12 years. I'm also retired from the Independence Police Department, 20 years. I'm actually here filling in for my brother, who's had some health issues for the Kentucky Police Chiefs Association. So I'm really here just to fill his seat for a little bit.
Good morning. It's great to see many of you again.
I'm Joe Monroe. I'm the Chief of Police at the University of Kentucky, as well as the President of the Kentucky Association of Chiefs of Police. And Mr. Chairman, if I could just have a couple minutes for some comments.
You can. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Again, thank you for this opportunity to be here this morning. I want to start where I usually leave off when I'm talking to different groups. It's about the 4 pillars, and those are trust, transparency, accountability, and legitimacy. These are the foundational pillars in an agency that has to have to be successful in policing. These pillars are what I want to talk about real briefly. In alignment with those pillars, I'd submit a few things for you to consider. Can we as police departments in this state that serve our communities do better? Yes. How do we do that? Do we need police reform? Yes. And how do we do that? With this bill. By getting rid of these bad apples and getting them off our police departments. As Representative Blanton said, one bad officer can taint a whole organization as well as a state. Now you look at what happened last summer and how it had an impact on police officers around the country. It caused us to have deficiencies in recruiting, see increase in retirements, all because one bad person in an agency led to this. So we have to get rid of these people. We have to get rid of the negative behaviors. And that starts with earning that trust in our communities. Senate Bill 80 is commonly known as the decertification bill or the accountability bill for police. This piece of legislation is one of our top priorities at the Kentucky Association of Chiefs of Police, and we believe this is the first step in taking some type of reform. As my colleagues have said, this bill is supported by the Kentucky Sheriff's Association, by the League of Cities, the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council, and the Fraternal Order of Police. We all want this to pass. We all need this to help us get rid of these bad apples. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about it, but we support this in law enforcement in the state.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate all of y'all's service and you being here today. We do have one more question from Representative Gentry, and I'm not sure who it will be directed to, so hang tough or it might be the sponsors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question has been answered. I was just going to ask for FOP support, and I know you have it, and I think this is a great bill, so
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member seeking Go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you. Will this affect the CLEF fund in any way? Okay, great. Thank you.
Good question. I appreciate you asking.
That is, yeah. Oh, Ms. Stevenson?
When I look at investigative agency, does that include what are now popping up the civilian review boards?
Hold on, there was handshakes going on. Can you repeat that question one more time?
And you guys to stop loving on each other.
Or she'll break out in singing.
Brothers. What was the
I
question?
just wanted to know if the investigative agencies would include the civilian review boards that are popping up in different jurisdictions.
The bill is set up where it is the agency itself for any formal action that the agency would take as far as termination, and it's the determination of professional malfeasance or nonfeasance would be determined by that agency. There is nothing that addresses the review panels whatsoever. It would be the agency's actions towards the officer or as a result of a conviction in the court system.
Okay. And nothing prohibits taking a recommendation from any of those boards?
No.
Okay.
The KLEC would have the ability to hear testimony from whoever they would like during the reviews that they conduct. Good question, ma'am.
All right. I don't see any other hands up, so Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Representative Blanton.
Aye.
Representative Dossett.
Yes.
Representative Duplessis. Representative Freeland.
Yes.
Representative Fugit.
Yes.
Representative Gentry.
Yes.
Representative Goforth.
Yes.
Representative Gooch. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Representative Lewis.
Yes.
Representative Maddox.
Yes.
Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Sharp,
Yes.
Representative Stevenson,
Yes.
Representative Tackett Lafferty,
Yes.
Representative Wesley,
Yes.
Representative Wheatley,
Yes.
and Chairman Thomas.
Yes, so it passes unanimous. If we had consent, we'd put it on there, but we'll look forward to Representative Blanton's testimony on the floor. So thank you, Senator. I should say Chairman. All righty. At this time, since it's about almost 10 after, I'm going to juggle things around one more time. Well, no, it's kind of back on track. Well, no, it isn't. I'm going to go ahead and step down to the table and present HCR 81 with my cyber guest out there and turn the rest of the meeting. And I'm probably going to have to dip out after that. So I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chair McCool to finish up the meeting. Okay.
Well, welcome, Representative. I appreciate your time today. If you don't mind, go ahead and introduce yourself and proceed with introducing your guest and your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you can see, we have members dipping out. They're going to go record votes and probably come back in, record some here. So we appreciate them doing. 12 o'clock's a busy time. I'm State Representative Walker Thomas, in case. I represent District 8. And my Chamber of Commerce president, who is on the phone or on the line here, has kind of called me just the other day, and this is something that as a state we really need to get moving. I think she can explain it a little bit, and you'll see the urgency here. So I will turn it over to Ms. Pendleton.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kelly Pendleton. I'm the president and CEO of the Christian County Chamber of Commerce. And coming to you today, I appreciate you taking the time to hear our brief comments, an overview about the future vertical lift, which is the future of Army aviation. This is Resolution 81 to support that, and we appreciate your time. Just a quick summary, Future Vertical Lift is a new family of aircraft that will help meet emerging threats. The aircraft will use technology and materials as well as designs that are faster, have further range, better payload, more reliable, easier to maintain and operate, and have lower operating cost and reduce in logistical footprints. This will help to ensure the success on the modern battlefield. FVL will also expand the U.S. Army National Guard's mission as an operational strategic reserve. It will provide opportunities for growth and innovation in the U.S. industrial base. The new design and manufacturing sustainment methods are brought to bear to ensure the success of the programs. A recent study by NDP Analytics found that FEL's expenditures could have an impact of about $150 billion and approximately 22,000 jobs or more from 2028 to 2050 across the U.S. industrial base. So as we look, myself, I also serve on the Campbell Strong Defense Alliance, work well with the Knox Defense Alliance, Development Alliance, and we know that there's a lot of opportunity for Kentucky as the Army does modernize and DoD modernizes aviation and all of its assets. And so in order to really be competitive and ensure we can take advantage of those opportunities, we ask that you please pass this resolution in support of the future vertical lift.
Motion on the resolution.
Second.
Representative Blanton, Representative Dossett,
Yes.
Representative Duplessis, Representative Freeland,
Yes.
Representative Fugit,
Yes.
Representative Gentry,
Yes.
Representative Goforth,
Yes.
Representative Gooch, Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Cook,
Yes.
Representative Lewis,
Yes.
Representative Maddox, Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Mentor,
Yes.
Representative Sharp,
Yes.
Representative Stevenson,
Yes.
Representative Tackett Lafferty, Representative Wesley,
Yes.
Representative Wheatley,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye.
Thank you. It looks like it passes with the expression that will pass in the House. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Kelly.
Sir, thank you.
I'm going to go for 6.
And we'll need, there's a substitute. So we'll need,
Okay, Representative Bridges, would you House Bill 46? There is a committee substitute with this, so we'll need a motion on this first.
Yes, sir.
Motion on committee sub.
Motion on sub, do we have a second? Second. We have- All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes, thank you. Representative, please introduce yourself.
Yes, sir.
Introduce your guest and proceed with your bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the committee members. I'm Representative Bridges from the 3rd District, McCracken. And I have with me two people that are special to me, have grown special to me over the last few months, and that is Carrie and Brian Jenkins from my district in McCracken. We're going to discuss House Bill 46 with the committee sub, but there's a story to be told, and it's not my story. And I've asked them to be here to share with you their experience, and then I will talk about the details of House Bill 46. Carrie and Brian, if you don't mind to introduce yourself and share your story.
Good morning. We are the proud parents of 4 beautiful children, Devin 20, Parker 10, Silas 5, and Ava, who would have been turning 4 this coming Saturday. Our beautiful Ava Grace passed away on September 8, 2019 at Vanderbilt Children's Hospital due to complications related to drowning in our neighbor's above-ground pool, where there had been no safety precautions taken. As many parents do, we place a high importance on water safety. We were always with our children when they swam. We believe that through conversation, the use of floaties and puddle jumpers, they understood those dangers as well. The summer of 2019, I contacted 2 area pools that serve our local communities, seeking swim lessons for our then 2- and 3-year-old. We were informed that in Kentucky, children had to be at least 4 and completely potty trained before swim lessons would be given. I thought as a parent I had done enough. However, September 8th contradicted all that I believed. Ava was just a baby. She was only out of our sight for a few short minutes. Children are so fast. Those short few minutes proved to be fatal. Ava left our yard being the adventure seeker that any normal 2-year-old would be. She went into the neighbor's yard where she wanted to go swimming. She told her older brother as he was with her. He tried to tell her no, but she did not listen. He tried to save her, but he was too little himself to make an impact, so he came to get us. When my husband found our lifeless child, he administered CPR as I went for help. He was able to establish a heartbeat, which kept her little body going until help arrived. But as we would later find out, it was too late. Ava had lost all brain function and was on life support and could not survive without machines. We were forced to make the decision that no parent should ever have to make, which was to take our daughter off life support. We chose to donate Ava's kidneys so that a part of her would continue to live on. But that is not enough. There is another way for her memory to live on with HB 46, Ava's Law. In this past year, coming to terms with the grief of losing a child in such a horrible manner has led me to do some research, and my findings were incredibly disturbing. There are no state laws for residential pools, only commercial. I've asked myself over and over, how can that be? According to the CDC Gov website, drowning is the leading cause of death in children under the age of 5. Yet there is no law in Kentucky to protect our children. You see, God has given me a platform that I didn't ask for. However, until I take my last breath, I will advocate for others, including our late daughter. My hope is that by sharing our story, it will prevent other families from walking in our shoes. If we can save one child's life from this terrible fate, Ava's death will not have been in vain. We ask that you please support Bill H-46, Ava's Law, and please help all kids safer this swimming season, Kentucky. Thank you so much for your time, and God bless.
Thank you, guys. House Bill 46, and this is one that shocked me myself, and I used to own a pool store and installed swimming pools. But there are, out of 50 states, 30 states have residential pool laws and statutes. Kentucky is only one of 20. 3 of our surrounding states have statutes in place to protect against this. And I did the research myself. Children under 14, last year the U.S. average grounder was 356. 77%, nearly 80% of those children were under the age of 5 years old. And I'm a realist, and I've talked to the Jenkins about this. You know, where do we draw the line as legislators as far as were they negligent? And we've talked about this so they understand it. And I can assure you they were not. I talked to my local sheriff and the local county attorney, and they assured me that this couple could suffer no more punishment than what they're going through right now. And as a legislator, I looked at it and you know, where does that, do I have the right to require someone to put a restriction on their swimming pool or not? And at the end of the day, I look at it that my responsibility, I can't control, and we as legislators can't control if children get good or bad parents. We can't control a lot of things, but one thing we can control is the safety of these children under 5 years old, and put reasonable restrictions and statutes in place to protect these children. The statutes we've got in place in House Bill 46 are, I can assure you, very minimal compared to other states. But I had a goal of 2 things when putting these together and talking to experts was, how can we protect our children best we can without causing an undue burden on our homeowners? And in the state of Kentucky, there are some ordinances. It's been left to whether the local cities or counties have those ordinances. And in some cases, insurance companies require barriers around pools. And in Ava's case, the sad part about it, a lot of those, there's not that much cost because a lot of these provisions are already taking place in the manufacturer because of federal laws that they're forced to manufacture certain things. But we don't have a law that says you've got to follow those guidelines. In this instance, this above-ground pool, it was already 48 inches tall, and that's what we've put down, a 48-inch barrier that a young child could not crawl under, over, or through. You know, the other thing is the steps on an above-ground pool. We would, in this law, it would say that the steps put on those pools either had to be removable or lockable. There was there's a law, a U.S. law that requires manufacturers to manufacture those steps already that are in place. In the very pool that this child drowned in, and this hits home because it's the same age as my granddaughter, this 2 years old, and imprinted in vacuum molded into the pool step, it said remove after use. Now, please understand, the neighbors were not acting against the law. That was, you know, since it's not a law, it's only a suggestion from the manufacturer. But if this law would have been in place, in this law it says your steps have to either be removable or they have to be locked, and they come with locks on them. There'd been no extra cost, no extra burden, except just to require them to remove that part of the ladder, those rungs on that ladder, so that 2-year-old could not have climbed up. You know, that's a simple fix, and it's a very, you know, now in residential in-ground pools, we are requiring a barrier, a 48-inch barrier with a self-closing gate. The house or a detached garage that close can count as that barrier, so it's a minimum of fencing required, but it will be a cost. We have 2 exemptions in here. if there is a property that has over 10 acres, because I don't want to go down the road where a farmer has to put a fence around his farm pond or something. We put 10 acres, and then those pools in existence that have ASC certified safety covers, we would exempt them to keep from being an extra burden on these homeowners. But it's something I feel that we should look out for the well-being. This is not only veterans and military affairs, but it is public protection, and I feel like this is a public protection policy and a good bill. So I would ask that you support this bill, and I would open it up to any questions. And Brian and Carrie, I'm deeply sorry for your loss, and I've come to know you guys. I love you guys, your children. And one thing I do want to say that Carrie's been gracious. The older brother that was with the 2-year-old was 15 months older, I think, or so. Is that right? Yeah, it wasn't like it was a 10 or 12 or 15-year-old. This was another young child, and they were just, the sad part about it is it's just one of them where the sheriff told me, he said, Randy, there's just a simple, it's just a tragedy that was an accident, and they happen sometimes. So if there's any questions, I'd open it up for questions.
Thank you, Representative Bridges, certainly for bringing this forward. And to the family, we want you to know that our hearts and our prayers are with you, and appreciate your strength today. We do have a question, Representative Gentry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to first start off by saying thank you for the testimony, Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins, and I'm deeply saddened for your loss, and also I want you to understand that whenever we do new legislation, a lot of times we might debate about the words and terminology that we have in our bill because we need to make sure we make it right, but I think it's clear everybody understands the intent, and we want to do what's right and create something that provides safety for our young children. So I do have a couple of questions, Representative Bridges, for some clarity purposes as we look at our language. On Section 1, subsection 6, I believe it is, talks about portable swimming pools shall be emptied after each use. I guess after each use, can you expound on that at all? Or,
sure.
And let me tell you where I'm going. Okay. In my neighborhood, I have a suburban residential neighborhoods in my district that I represent, so pools are a big issue. We also have ordinances in the city of Louisville Metro. I don't know exactly how they are and how they're written. I'll have to check on that. But what's popular in my neighborhood is we have these little wading pools or toddler pools, and a lot of families have them and don't really have toddlers, but they use them in the summertime in fenced yards for their pets, their dogs. Right. And they might keep a couple inches of water in them and dump them every few days just to make sure there's no mosquito type haven or any of those kind of issues. Is there anything in here in this language that is going to make them have to go out and continuously dump that pool in fear of a egregious neighbor maybe calling code enforcement on them and coming and getting an immediate fine? So
I absolutely understand, and you as a legislator know there's no perfect legislation, but we do our best. I talked to LRC. We did a lot of research. The number is 24 inches. Later on in the section, it talks about anything less than 24 inches is considered a portable. And if our goal is, first off, I don't think a couple of inches for drinking water for animals is going to be a drowning factor. But, when you get up to 10, 12, 14, the concern was you leave that out there, and it's a dual safety. It's not mentioned in here, but you mentioned it yourself, mosquitoes and health purposes for that water to stagnate and everything. We have that problem with old tires that collect water we don't notice and everything. So there's a health issue there. But, I really can't answer that question through the statute. You know, and that's a good question. But our thing is, I think if it's got more than a couple inches, it needs to be emptied. But you did say something. If it's in a fenced yard, most fences, if you've got a fence around a yard, most of them are. We've made these fence guidelines very minimal. If you go to commercial swimming pools, they're a lot greater. 54 inches, a 54-inch latch. I mean, a number of different things. But if it's already in a fence, it won't be a problem. You know, where they've got their pets. If a pet can't get out, I don't think a child can get in. So I think that would have part to do to say no. But I know I haven't answered your question, but I'm just being
I
transparent.
understand where you're
Yeah.
coming in, and I do know in Louisville Metro we have ordinances that talk about stagnant water as well. So, and I really need to look at that too and see exactly how that's written. If I can think of a word or two we can put in there to strengthen this legislation,
Bring it to me.
I'll bring it to you.
Right, okay.
And if I could just have one follow-up question.
Yes.
Mr. Chair. This is regarding section 1(2)(e), and I think it concerns people that have existing swimming pools, and it talks about. Okay, I don't see it in the substitute.
Some of that, if you're looking at
Maybe
the
that was
original bill,
pulled.
there has been some language that was stricken out in
Okay.
in the substitute.
Well, let me ask the question. You
Okay.
can tell me where it was stricken
Okay.
out. My question was, with existing people that have existing pools that need to have some work, is there a notification process to let them know prior to somebody showing up and fining them for something that they didn't even realize they were in violation for?
We've got as far as a notification, no, they're just like many laws we pass, we don't send out notices on, but they will have 120 days after the effective date of that to get it in line. And another thing that may make the committee more understanding and everything, there was the Virginia Ground Baker Act that was put in place by the federal government. Many of these pools, there's other safety factors we've looked at, and that is the main drains and the covers for those main drains. And I've talked to all the not all the pool manufacturers, but many of them. And there's an anti-disbursement cover adapter that can go on these main drains, and even the old main drains, when you go back to get a replacement when they're busted or they get brittle and break and everything, you can't buy the old cover to go back on it. You have to buy this new adaptive cover. So, and that's another effort to keep one of our biggest things is keep the burden off the homeowner if we can whatsoever, to keep the cost down. We don't want to be overburdening, and that's one of the things that we do have in here is to retrofit those drains so that a young child doesn't get sucked to the bottom and held down, and this disperses that. And all the new replacements and everything are already required to meet that standard. That's a federal standard. So,
Mr. Chair, can I elaborate a little bit more on my question? I think I probably didn't state it real well what my concern was, and I appreciate that answer, Representative Bridges. And let me try again here. My concern is in Louisville area, the enforcement agency is code enforcement, and generally what happens is with just about any enforcement code that violations, they will come out and look at a particular property. They often show up because someone in the neighborhood calls and files a complaint, and then they come out, and when they identify violations, there's usually a process where they will cite you, and then they will give you a time period to address the problem. They'll tell you exactly what the problem is, and they give you a specific time window to fix that problem. Because a lot of times what happens is we have all kinds of ordinances and laws, and the average person in a residential area cannot keep up with them. So they do that, and then they come back on a secondary visit, and if those violations have not been corrected, then they get fined. Is there anything this is my question now, is there anything that if we pass this into law that does not allow them at a local level to not have to fine you on their first visit, so to speak?
I don't see anything in this law that would prevent that happening. That would be basically go to code enforcement and what's their standard procedure, and they would follow that, just like any other item they found out of that was not in code. Then they would follow their standard procedure. And I will say this, a lot of the requirements that are in local ordinances, whether it be city or county, or even insurance requirements, are much more stringent than this, because we are trying to be as reasonable as we can about this law without being infringing on a person's rights and their freedoms and everything. So we did that. So that would fall to the local ordinance, local governing authority, to their decision as far as how they handle any new laws going into effect.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any more questions or comments? Representative Lafferty.
I'm just, of course, I'm a mother of three. My youngest is 4 years old, so I can't even imagine the grief that you're going through. But I do have a couple questions. Sure. Because as we're talking about this situations of, what type of situations my 4-year-old may be able to get into, are popping into my head. But for instance, with my parents' home, I notice here that, and I think this is the committee sub. Was it provided?
Yes.
Okay. So I do think I'm reading from the committee sub and not the original bill. But it talks about shall not have any gaps or openings in this 4-foot barrier that children may be able to crawl under or climb over or make their way through, basically, to the swimming pool. So if you have a home that is enclosed by a 4-foot barrier, a fence, and you have a pool on the inside, are you saying that you have to have an additional pool barrier?
No.
Okay.
That's why if you look in here on page 2, line item 5,
Okay.
it's a wall of a dwelling may serve as part of the barrier, and some statutes require a fence between the door of the house and the pool, and this one does not, which is, to be honest with you, fairly lax as far as pool laws go. But we did look at other states and other references and everything. LRC did an excellent job in the research, and we tried to keep the minimum barriers down. And then if it can, I want to protect children by all means. But we're also trying to keep the most reasonable request out, make the most reasonable request so that we can get a law in place, because the ultimate problem is we don't have anything that forces this, and there's many instances out there that it could very easily be followed if we just told them they had to follow it.
So this says the wall of the dwelling. So
Yes.
that's not talking about the home. I
Yes.
assumed that was talking about the home.
Well, it could be like if you got a detached garage that sits behind the
Mhm.
pool, and you just want to run the fence from the house to that. Now there is some language in here that where if you're on a big farm and it's got a fence all the way around it, no, it's got to be around the pool area, So
for instance, with my parents' home,
Okay.
you have to cross the bridge to get across the creek.
Okay.
And then once you cross the bridge, there's a fenced-in area around the home.
Okay.
Now the fence is not a chain link fence, so it's one of the fences like the farm style fences where a child probably could get through, and so then their pool is near their home.
Right.
Now I think their pool has all these safety precautions that are kind of already mentioned.
Right.
The place where their access to their ladder does have an enclosed fence around it, but there's not an enclosed barrier all the way around the pool.
Is it an in-ground or above-ground pool?
It is an above-ground pool.
Okay, an above-ground pool, the walls, most walls are 48 inches. That's a pretty standard.
Okay.
And that's the 48-inch barrier, so that wall of that pool will act as the barrier around that pool.
Okay.
Now, if it were an in-ground pool, it wouldn't be acceptable.
So if it was an in-ground pool, you would be required to put a fence up in addition to the, or a gate. Well, no, I don't guess a gate would work.
Right.
Would
If you
it?
can walk, if you can walk level and walk into that pool, then it's going to have to, unless you've got 10 acres or you've got this certified safety cover that you can put on it. But it's, but what you're talking about is above ground pool. So if it's 48-inch wall, that wall serves as the barrier because the child would have to crawl up that 48-inch, just like they'd have to crawl over a 48-inch fence. So they.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions or comments? Seeing none, do we have a motion and a second? Motion? Got a motion and second? Can you give a second? That was on the sub. That was on the sub. Have we got motion second? Okay. Okay, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Representative Blanton. Representative Dossett.
Yes.
Representative Duplessis. Representative Freeland.
Yes, and thank you.
Representative Fugit.
Yes.
Representative Gentry.
Explain my vote, please. I'm going to vote yes today and allow this piece of legislation to advance, but I do have some questions about a couple of words in here, and I will meet with Representative Bridges to address this and see if we can't make this language a little tighter. Thank you.
Representative Goforth.
Pass.
Representative Gooch. Yes. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Yes.
Representative Lewis.
Yes.
Representative Maddox. Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Mentor. Representative Sharp.
Yes.
Representative Stevenson.
Yeah, may I explain my vote? I vote yes, and I think as part of any community that works, for everybody to have rights, we have to give up some of our rights. Just like when I agree to drive a car, I agree to stop at a red light. If you buy a pool, if we give notice, you ought to agree to keep children safe. And that also extends to whatever happens for the greater good in terms of stopping the pandemic, wearing masks, doing whatever it takes to keep everyone safe. Yes.
Representative Tackett Lafferty.
Yes.
Representative Wesley. Representative Wheatley.
Yes.
And Chairman Thomas.
Okay, thank you. It passes with expression that I will pass in the House. Thank you for your time, Representative Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee members, and thank you, Brian and Carrie.
Just let everybody know, if you have your House Bill 540, don't leave it in your folders. Leave it here. Leave it here because we're going to hear that one tomorrow. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
I'll leave it all here. Except whatever Susan gave us. I get that. Hey.
That's fine. I just 5, 10, and 5. I thought maybe it was a typo. I think that's why.